Hi, I'm Roy Murphy. You're watching the Bitconnect YouTube channel. Coming up in today's video, Bitconnect down for maintenance. Hello, welcome back. I'm Roy Murphy. You're watching the Bitconnect YouTube channel. Today we were going to be doing a video about buying, selling and trading on the Bitconnect platform. But as you can see, we're having trouble logging in. So I know that recently, this time last month, it was down for about 1.5 days, the system, and one of the reasons was because of DDoS attacks, and there was a bit of a boo-boo around the same time with an update on the Bitconnect and Bitcoin wallets, which was allowing for negative figures, and there was a manual process that lasted about a day and a half, nearly 2 days, where the Bitconnect staff, the developers, went through all of the accounts and made sure all of those that had negative figures, their accounts were frozen until they figured out what was going on. But it looks like today we've got a different situation here. So on this channel we go a little bit further. We don't just tell you what's going on, we try and show you. So what we'll do is we'll dig into the code and see if we can't just figure out what's going on, so you can be as informed as possible. So let's have a little look. Where it says please sign in, there it says Bitconnect, we'll be back soon, sorry for the inconvenience, but we're performing some maintenance at the moment. If you need, you can always contact us at inquiry@bitconnect.co, otherwise we'll be back online shortly. Okay, so it sounds like a temporary measure to me. But if we look at the styling, if we look at this here, you can see that it probably looks like it's been done in a hurry. This looks like an emergency page that's gone up. And we need to dig into the reasons why, well, certainly I think it's down. Before we go into all of that, we should probably just go back and do what we were going to do anyway, like we always do, and look at the markets before we dig into the code. So let's have a little look at the markets. If you're au fait with CoinMarketCap, you will see that some of the styling has changed on this page today. This happened about 24 hours ago, and it looks like they've added some mobile kind of style sheets so that it supports desktop as well as handheld devices. So what used to say market cap now says MCAP. The 24-hour volume now says volume, and a few of these has moved around, so the price is now on the left hand side. You can see Bitcoin now, it's got the BTC moniker instead of Bitcoin, which has changed obviously because it's smaller. Some of these figures we're getting into monopoly money figures now. So I mean, look, market cap 95.33 billion. That's a lot of zeros, that's 12 zeros. So to get that figure over here, everything was getting a little bit squished up. So I think they've changed it for that reason as well, and to make it look a bit better on mobile devices. Bitcoin today is steady. It's consolidated around 5733 at current prices. And if we scroll down and go to Bitconnect, BCC is the new moniker. We are steady around number 9. We're very, very close. 1.43 billion at number 9, 1.43 billion at number 10, and 1.46 billion at number 8 for Monero. So Bitconnect has been moving in and out of number 10 and number 8 and number 9 position for the last 2 days. After it had a massive sort of 12-13% increase in one day, it shot all the way up from number 12 on the list. Bearing in mind this time a few weeks ago it was number 15 on the list, so it's really coming up. And if you look here, the last couple of days we've started consolidating, that line starting to smooth out, and we've gone up 3.07% today. Now it's very interesting, look at that graph there. You can see if you compare that with Bitcoin, it's very, very similar, and the change throughout, well, for the last year, it has always tracked very, very well with Bitcoin, and it's just slightly outperformed as well. So if you're ever worried about bringing Bitcoin into, let's get rid of that. If you're ever worried about getting moving Bitcoin into Bitconnect, Bitconnect has always outperformed Bitcoin as a ratio. So never worry that, you know, oh, if I'd left my money in Bitcoin and left it in a wallet, it would have outperformed. That has never happened in the history of Bitconnect. So just wanted to alleviate that one. So let's go back to Bitconnect. Let's take a little look. So like I said, the styling does look like it was been done in a hurry. So let's have a little look at some of the reasons why it may be down. Now we know a month ago when they had all the issues with the DDoS attacks and that little bit of a boo-boo with the wallets, allowing for negative figures, they did say when they came back very, very quickly, they were really, really good, the development team. They came back and said that they would start producing once a month security updates and system-wide updates once a month. And it's been roughly a month, so it's actually due for an update. So the first thing I want to say is I'm pretty sure there's absolutely nothing to worry about. This is just going to be a temporary measure whilst a few updates are going to be done. So in the next video, when we do our buying, selling and trading in Bitconnect video, which I was hoping to do tonight, and we'll carry on. The time currently, UTC, we're in the UK, so it's now 5 to 2 in the morning on the 17th of October. We'll see how long this has been down. So I think it's been down for about 10 minutes. You can see the styling, even on the header here, is all messed up. The styling at the top seems not to be right, so they've obviously done this in a bit of a hurry. If this was planned, you'd think that someone in the development team would actually sign off on the visuals, on the CSS and everything on the front. So that's the cascading style sheets. So what reasons, or why on earth could it be down? So there's various reasons, and we'll dig into that, and we'll probably even go into dig into the code as well. Now, we were planning on doing a really in-depth look at the code behind the scenes for all you techies and all you developers and all of those that understand some of the technical aspects. We were going to go at a medium level just to see how the system works in depth behind the scenes. I thought that would be a really, really good video to do, and we will probably still do that as well. So I think when we dig into the code in a minute, we'll probably do it at quite a low level, just to give you an overview and see maybe you know what's going on. I haven't looked yet, but so we'll figure this out together. So one of the reasons, and probably the primary reason, and this is my hunch, the reason is either traffic overload or it's a DDoS attack. I noticed just before it went down and this sign came up, everything was reacting pretty slowly. So that could be an issue with the network. It could be an issue with a distributed denial of service attack, which is a DDoS, or it could just be the fact that it's so popular they weren't prepared in terms of network strength for the amount of traffic that they are now getting. Bearing in mind, when we looked at the cryptocurrency market cap just now, they had nearly £14.5 million invested in the last 24 hours. So it's really, really taken off. So what they'd have to do if it was a DDoS attack is do exactly the same as they did last time, and it may be a manual process. If they've got developers or some kind of server architect or a systems architect or a systems admin, they would have to go through all of the process IDs on the server and then manually delete them, and then if they find a pattern or a range of IP addresses that are doing that. So a DDoS attack is where there's multiple hits, where they try and slow the server down by making it busy, just doing nothing. That would be something that a system of this size should be able to cope with. They do use a distributed network to actually supply geolocale content, so it's a big system, and they do use some of the best networking tools to be able to give you content all the time. So they do use a CDN, a content delivery network, on the back end of Bitconnect. So I've dug into that before because I was just interested, bearing in mind that I've been a developer and a programmer since I was 10 years old. So that's over 30 years, and I've also been an enterprise architect for over 20 years. So having worked at Amazon, I understand big performance networks, and also I've looked after great big enterprises where they have an online presence. My primary directive is security and making sure there's 100% system uptime. So a system like this should never really go down. There are very few reasons. We'll probably go through the reasons why you would end up with a pretty urgent "we'll be back soon" kind of notice. Again, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about, and it shouldn't happen all the time, but even at my time in Amazon, we've had half a day where systems in certain countries have gone down. Google, it happens. Facebook, it happens. Someone's head usually rolls, and luckily in my my working time, that's never actually happened to me. I've always managed to blame someone else for my mess ups. So what else could it be? It could be, let's think, it could be an application update. It could be server side. It could be library updates. Certain library updates you can't test in an isolated area. So they've either tested it on a slave version of the system. Now, slave version is usually a complete copy that isn't public facing. So if you do a rollout of some new updates, you would test it in-house and get the developers to test it, and then once you've done your pen testing and your performance upgrades and you've gone through all the reasons why it may not work, you then slowly release it to one section, then you roll it out. So that's what you would normally do. So there's also app updates. They could be doing app updates. It could be new functionality they're making. They could be adding a new application slave server, or they could be updating a file system, and that is something that is very hard to do, to test in an isolated way. And if it was tested locally and then rolled out globally and it didn't work, they'd have to roll it back. So that could be another option. What else could it be? It could be a database update. Now, most updates wouldn't give you this kind of message. Most updates you'd be able to test in-house, you'd be able to roll it out, you'd be spending a couple of weeks testing it. This is the normal life cycle of advanced development or agile development. Bearing in mind that these people don't work in the UK, they don't work in the US, they're not in Canada, they are in a country developing where things aren't as advanced as they are here. Some things you can look, well, I've looked in the system before, some things are pretty much bang up to date, some things are a little bit legacy, but every time they do an update, everything does seem to just get better, faster, better, more secure. So I'm not worried about this at all. So yeah, database updates. So they could be compressing old data, making it smaller and then offsetting it and moving it somewhere else. Again, it shouldn't give you this message, but there are instances that it would give you this. So that would be the backing up process. Now, normally a system like this, because in the Bitconnect system you're talking about transactional data, and it's not just normal transactions, it is money. So financial transactions, I know certainly in the UK and in the US and most of the Western world, there are certain procedures. If you're dealing with finance and money and you're looking at accounting software and being accountable for transactions, there would normally be something at the very minimum called a master-slave-slave system. So master-slave-slave system is the database, it's the way that you ensure that when there is a transaction, that it is recorded in real time to the millisecond, and if there are, I'd imagine on a system of this size, there would be multiple databases mirroring the same data. So all of those databases would have to be mirrored and updated at precisely the same time, and that is mandatory when you're talking about transactional information. Now, I know it doesn't come under fiat currency, and I would imagine that they would use that kind of technology for any kind of real-time databases. Now, they've upgraded all of their JavaScript so that you don't even need to refresh anymore when you do a transaction. That suggests to me that in the background they are actually doing all the best processes. They have realized, they have upgraded everything. Everything seems to be working very well when the system's up and running. So I imagine that that is not an issue. They could be changing or upgrading their co-location packages. So as this is a content delivery network, we're getting a little bit geeky here, but I'm just trying to go through all the reasons why this could be here. Again, nothing to worry about. I'm just trying to air. I mean, none of this has been planned. I've just gone in to go and do a video and all this has popped up. So I've got half an hour to spare where I was going to be making a video anyway. So I'm just going to ad-lib this one and just go through my brain processes and see what it could be. So yeah, co-location packages, they could be upgrading their content delivery network, which would mean some offline time if they're either moving providers or they're scaling up to something that is a bit more corporate as far as the package they're using. So we've looked at the real-time transitions. What else could it be? Well, it could be they are moving infrastructure or part of. Now, if they are upgrading their security like they would be, now I've looked into this before, done a network trace of where the servers are talking to the application servers. So you've got database servers, application servers, media servers, so all images, a lot of text, a lot of the functionality will be on one server. The application itself, the brains and the logic behind the system would be on a completely different server. And then the style sheets and media, images, videos, anything else related to the website could also be on a different server. And if I was building this system, I would make sure that they were. Not only would they be on one server, they'd be in real time replicated, and they would be pointing at a distributed network, a content delivery network service, which provides real-time, updated, super fast upload speeds in different locales around the world to make sure that everybody gets the best, the best service. So after upgrading hardware, it may take time for DNS to propagate. So DNS is where all the name servers are. So if they're changing location, then the name servers would have to be updated, so they may have to put up a whole page for them to propagate. It can take anywhere from 1 minute to 24 hours. Again, if this was planned maintenance, they would have done all the prep work, allowing this to be minutes rather than hours. Again, this could be something. It's also highly unlikely. These are supposed to be professional people. If the development team are worth their salt, then that isn't the issue. The only other thing I can think of is just general routine maintenance or security maintenance like they said they would be doing. That could account for what we're seeing. There shouldn't be many instances where you would need to be offline. I mean, when do you ever see Google and you do a Google search and Google's just offline? It's one of the biggest in the world. That never goes down. So there are ways of doing it. Whether or not they've stepped up to the plate and thought, no, we are one of the big boys now, or maybe that's why they are down. Maybe they are upgrading the systems so that they never have these problems again. We will see. So let's have a little dig into some of the stuff in the back. So we'll be back soon. Let's do an inspect element. Now what this tells us is a little bit about the type of developments that they're doing. So this may be a bit geeky for some, try and stay with me. It'll be quite remedial for some developers, but the first thing we'll look at is the doc type. So this is the type of document that renders the page. And it says doc type HTML, so it's not specified, it's not specific. Now if it was an older version, it might say doc type HTML4 or XHTML. It would actually tell your browser the type of language, the type of hypertext it's using to be able to decipher when the website was actually created. So doc type HTML has been more popular because it supports HTML5, and that has been coming more and more into the fore over the last 3 years. So it looks pretty up to date just from that one statement there. Where else should we go? So we've got classes here. So this is HTML, this is a class, so it says CSS transforms. This is a style sheet, or it's at least a class of style which is indicated. So this would say to me that this has been dragged across just to bring this whole page up because it's above the head. Most of the classes should be within the head. Most of the JavaScript, especially if it's inline JavaScript, should be at the bottom of the page so we can see what's inside the head. Now the head area is usually where you would load a lot of your classes. It would be where you put your JavaScript headers, and let's have a little dig into there before we get to the body class, which is all of this stuff here which we'll highlight, which makes up the main body of the page. So let's go into the head area. So we've got a div class, fit vid style. So this is a class that looks like it's not being used on this particular page. This is being brought over from one of the master styles, so we don't need to worry about that. Script source, http connect.facebook.net. So this looks like a config signal from Facebook. So this is a generic Facebook sheet, and the good thing is it is asynchronous, so it says async. So what they're doing there, that shows to me that they do understand about page loading times. in the header of the page, as many of your JavaScript files you want to be asynchronous. Now what asynchronous means is, in the old days you'd put your JavaScript files up here and it would preload everything in the head before it started to render the page. So the more stuff you have in the head area that was JavaScript, it would have to load and do all of the work to understand the logic behind the website before it started to render the website. And we could just be talking milliseconds or half a second, depending on how many files there are in there. With asynchronous files, this is from HTML4 onwards, actually no, HTML5 onwards, you've got this thing which is async. This allows parallel download, so this will not interrupt the page loading. So this is a speed thing. This means I understand that this is going to take longer. If I put in async, this makes the page faster. So at least the development team are understanding that speed is key, because I imagine at any one point there's at least 50,000 people or more using the site and interacting. So you want to keep it lively and up and running. So Google Analytics, that's fairly self-explanatory. This is the analytics code for them to be able to log in and see who's logging in, how long are they on the site for, all of the analytics that you would expect a company like Google to do when you look at your system and you want to do your analytics on your code, the amount of time that people are on, how long do they stay on for, where do they go, where do they come from. This is the JavaScript file that allows that, and there's another one underneath. Why there's two? I don't know. Looks like a duplicate. That could cause performance problems because they seem to have two analytics JavaScript files. They could be specific to different areas of the website. One could be for the footer and one could be for the main board, but it seems silly that they've got two lots here. Maybe they're tracking different metrics. So here we've got a JS SDK. So this is the Facebook JavaScript software development kit. This may not need to be in the actual website itself, so this is probably extraneous, and it doesn't really need to be there. You don't need the software development kit to actually be live on a website. This is actually to develop Facebook type calls, and this may not need to be there, so maybe they need to look at that. gstatic.com reCAPTCHA. So reCAPTCHA is an API. It's an application planning interface, and this is a JavaScript, and the easiest way to say this is reCAPTCHA is the little box that you would normally have to log in to say I am not a robot. The I am not a robot captcha is the way to stop these DDoS attacks from happening by making sure that you are human. None of this is interesting. Viewport, meta name. Viewport, content width, device width. This tells me that the viewport is the screen area that is viewable to you. So a viewport will change depending on what device. So this is the if or an either logic behind the viewport. So the browser knows the ratio of the screen, it knows the DPI of the screen, and it also tells you whether the window is in portrait mode or in landscape mode. So this means that the site itself is at least partially responsive. When I say responsive, it's visually responsive. So if you change the size of your screen, everything kind of fits in to look good. Favicon.ico. So this is an href for the favorite icon. So this is a shortcut icon. So when I go to favorites and I look at my favorites and I say Bitconnect, you can see that there's the icon there, and you will also see if I click off this page that the icon is at the top left of the page here. That is the favicon. That's the favorite icon. So it's a very, very, very small file that just allows when you first log in, it's first loaded and you have your icon at the top of the page. It's a styling thing and it's a branding thing. Bitconnect login, that's part of the login canonical part of the page. Google site verification. This is part of the verification process for anything that is Google related. We've got the meta name, which is the author, which is bitconnect.co, in case you had any reasons why you to think it wasn't. Website property, bitconnect.co is property. Meta content just tells you it's the login page, and you can see that at the top, bitconnect.co login, which is the OG site name. Owner, bitconnect.co. Meta content. Now, this here comes up on a Google search. If you were to Google Bitconnect, when you get your listing in Google and you come to the bitconnect.co page, this is the content header, and underneath is the content description. And what I find funny is the fact that it doesn't say Bitconnect at the beginning. What they're doing is they're targeting some keywords, and the main keyword is Bitcoin. So you've got earn Bitcoin, Bitcoin community, community Bitcoin, Bitcoin buy, Bitcoin sell, Bitcoin trade. And they've also got Bitconnect in there. So they've been very, very clever the way that they've used a very small density of keywords, but the keywords are the most important ones. This isn't just to show you what the site is. This is more designed this way by the way that they've used their keyword density to show me, at least, that they understand marketing. They understand the way that Google works in a Google search. And the same for the description. If you read it, I imagine it doesn't read very well. World Bitcoin community for Bitcoin and other crypto users to earn, learn, buy, sell and trade Bitcoins to other trusted Bitcoin community members directly. What they've done here, this is what I call a keyword stuffing description. And if I was going to design this, I would design it exactly the same way. Look at the word. What is their keyword? Their keyword here is Bitcoin. Bitcoin once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So what they're doing is they are working on their keyword density. Now, when Google looks at the content of the website, it wants to know what is that website about. So it's looking at Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is very heavily tied into Bitconnect because it requires Bitcoin to go in and it requires you to have Bitcoin if you want to come out. So Bitcoin here has a very, very high keyword density. So if you type in the word Bitcoin, it will see the Bitconnect website as very, very strongly biased towards Bitcoin. So it will actually go higher up naturally in the website listing. So that is actually very clever. It doesn't read like English. It doesn't sound like they really know what they're doing. But that, to me, shows me that they have a very good idea. So the content as well. So look at the content. As again, look, Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoins. What they're doing is they're stuffing every different variable. So you could go Bitcoin community, World Bitcoin community, World Bitcoin, Bitcoin crypto, crypto users, learn Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, trade Bitcoin, sell Bitcoins, trusted Bitcoin, Bitcoin community, community members, Bitcoin members. You see all of these different variations appear in the content, and that is clever. That is to me anyway. Twitter cards, this is all social media stuff. Twitter description, again, Bitcoin and everything here. So they're using their Twitter description to stuff everything with the word Bitcoin, 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 because more people will search and come across the Bitconnect website if they are au fait with Bitcoin. If you don't understand Bitcoin, there's no way of you getting into Bitconnect. So that is the reason behind all of this. Bitcoin community and Twitter title. So this is all social media stuff. Google Plus. This is social media stuff for Google Plus. Bitconnect themes default main CSS. This is the main cascading style sheet. It's all the information for all the colors, all the fonts, everything on the website, which is generic to the whole site. This to me rings a bell. Not a bad bell, a good one. It's got a V here, which is the version number. And this shows me that it's a very long number, that they are using version control. So something like Git or GitHub. That shows me that there are lots of developers, lots of designers all contributing. And the different version depends on what they have approved and what they are mixing in and what they are bringing into the website on a daily and weekly basis. So this is a good sign. This is an information. This is all legacy stuff, which is why it's in green. This is an if statement. So if LTE 9. So this is Internet Explorer 9. If LTE means if later than IE 9. So this is an if or statement. If it's later than IE9, what that is saying is if it's Internet Explorer 10 or later. Now, Internet Explorer has always been a pain in the backside to work with because it does everything different to every other single browser. So it just messes up the styling just slightly, and they have to put in these strange or statements to be able to fix the styling that works in every other browser and not in Internet Explorer. Now, if you are an Internet Explorer fan, I hope you have at least 10. Most people would say don't even deal with Internet Explorer anymore, at least upgrade to Edge. This is what I'm using currently, and I usually switch between Edge and Chrome. I'm using a Windows PC. But that's the reason why. It just messes up the text. Bitconnect themes, default jQuery. So this is the JavaScript specifically related to the jQuery framework. Now, they use a framework so that it's quick to develop different types of styles. Now, 2.1.3, so this is jQuery version 2. Subversion 1, Subversion 3. Now I think, I'll have to check, I'm not sure if they're on jQuery 2.4 yet, but this is within the last 2 years, so it means that the styles of everything has been developed over the last 2 years at the very most. And if we look at the .min.js, that means that this JavaScript has been minified, means that the script itself has actually been squished to the smallest it can be and still be read by a browser. So this goes to show that they understand loading speeds, and this is a minified file. The variants for hashing, the translate, so translate.googleapis.com. So that is this area here. So this is the little language selector here, and it will be a custom list of languages that they want to translate the whole website with. So this is their way of cheating to get all the different sites uploaded and translated into all the different areas that they operate. Google Translate Static, so this is the JavaScript that controls this file here. Different elements, so this is the translate googleapis.com element, so this will contain some of the character sets and this is the main JavaScript. So these will be the elements where they would have actually selected the languages that appear in the language selection box. Script, Google Leads, so this is the double click, so doubleclick.net are any kind of page related Google leads. So these are the little tiny pop-ups that you may see around the website. There aren't too many, but again, it's just tracking, clicking, and page ads. And it says here view through conversion. So it's the conversion stats. Text CSS hidden. So these are some of the hidden background styles. Home header. These are generic. You can see that up the top. That is the general header. So this is the style sheet for the header. And this is the other if Internet Explorer 7 or later. This gives you another frame for actually fixing the website as you see it. Everything else is all to do, if you see here, everything within this class is actually the body. We don't need to go through that because it's all style sheet related. And these are different clauses for skipping translate and whatnot. So we can get rid of all the body classes and hopefully get into the footer area. So the head of the head ends there. There you go. We could dig into the footer and everything else, but it's probably too much for most people to take in. We'll close the head off. The end of the body's there. At the end of the body there should be a footer down here somewhere. Iframes, so there's little widgets here. And where's the footer? Probably need to open up some of these frames at the bottom to find the footer. It's in there somewhere. But we will be doing another video to dig into all of this stuff and see if that works. Let's try again. Should we try and log in? What is the time now? It's now 23 minutes past 2. Let's do one more quick login, see if anything's changed. I am not a robot. Let's sign in. Are you working? There you go. Now we're live. Now we can do the next video. Well, thank you for staying for all of that ad-libbing with me. It may have been a bit boring, it may have been interesting. I don't know, let me know. Do you want me to do something like that in more detail and go through the nitty-gritty of how it really works? We can go through some server stuff. I imagine most people aren't really that interested, but if you are, let me know. If we get enough people, I will go really down deep and dirty with the Bitconnect system. I'm Roy Murphy, you've been watching the Bitconnect YouTube channel, and I will see you very shortly in the next video.
This video was brought to you by Team Smurf. We bring you new videos each and every day. To join our team, click the referral link below this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and interact with us in the comments box below. Bitconnect, creating wealth for everyone.